a Rabbinic Anthology selected by C.G. Montefiore and H.Loewe, 344 from Bab M 85b. R. Jeremiah said to R. Ze'erah, it says in Job of Sheol 3:19, small and great are there, and the slave is free of his master. Is it not obvious that small and great are there? It means he who, for the sake of the words of the Torah, makes himself small in this world, will be great in the world to come, and he who, for the sake of the words of the Torah, makes himself as a slave in this world, will be a free man in the world to come. Bab M 85b. And remember, added to the end of Lowe's introduction, I included the abbreviations. A similar moral is deduced from Eber's younger son in Genesis 10:25, where it says that Eber had two sons, the elder being called Peleg, which means division, because it was in his days that the earth was divided into small and great, and the name of his brother was Joktan. He belittles himself. No explanation of the name is given in Genesis, and it is a rabbinic axiom that when a name is unexplained, but nonetheless distinctly mentioned in a clause of its own, and not merely enumerated in a catalog, there is a reason for the choice of name, which must be looked for and interpreted homiletically. Selection 345, Gen R, Nawach, 37, verse 7th, 349. This part provided by H.L. Therefore, asks the Midrash, why was he called Joktan? He belittles, because he belittled himself and his affairs, i.e., was humble in demeanor and modest in his enterprises, never exalting himself. What was his reward? To raise 12 families of descendants. Now, if this is the reward of a small man who makes himself small, what will be the reward of a great man who does so? A similar story is learnt from the fact that Jacob stretched out his hand on the head of Ephraim, though he was the younger, literally the insignificant one. Genesis 48:14. But why the last clause? Do we not know this from the pedigree? The answer is that he made his needs insignificant, and so his reward was the right of primogeniture. If a younger son thus abuses himself and is then rewarded, what will be the reward of an elder son who does likewise? See note 67, Gen R, Noach 37:7, page 349. The law is for all Israelites. Each of them may apprehend it or partake of it according to his capacity. See our selection 10 previously and 689 in the future. There are 3 crowns: the crown of the Torah, the crown of the priesthood, and the crown of the kingdom. Aaron was worthy of the crown of the priesthood and obtained it. David was worthy of the crown of the kingdom and obtained it. The crown of the Torah remains over, so that no man shall have the pretext to say, if the crown of the priesthood and the crown of the kingdom were yet available, I would have proved myself worthy of them and have obtained them. For the crown of the Torah is available to all. For God says of him who proves himself worthy of that crown. I reckon it to him as if all the three were yet available, and he had proved himself worthy of them all, and of every one who does not prove himself worthy of the crown of the law. I reckon it unto him as if all three crowns were yet available, and he had proved himself worthy of none of them. Which is the greatest, do you ask, of the three crowns? Arcebin B. Elazar said, Who is greater, he who makes a king or the king? Surely he who makes a king. Who is greater, he who appoints rulers or the rulers? Surely he who appoints them. But the other two crowns come to be only in virtue of Torah, even as it says, By me kings reign, by me princes rule. Proverbs 8, verses 15 and 16, Sephra Numbers Karach, section 119, folio 40A, H page 144, and see 1386 of our selections when we get to that. There is perhaps an occasional perception that revelation is progressive. Selection 347, Tanch B, Devarim 1a. When God revealed his presence to the Israelites, he did not show forth all his goodness at once, because they could not have borne so much good, for had he revealed his goodness to them at one time, they would have died. Thus, when Joseph made himself known to his brethren, they were unable to answer him, because they were astounded by him. Genesis 45:3. If God were to reveal himself all at once, how much more powerful would be the effect? So he shows himself little by little. Tunch B, Devarim 1a. A prophet may even order the violation of a law if the exigencies of the moment demand it. 348, Sefer Deuteronomy Shephathim 175, folio 107b, Yeb 90b. A prophet, words left out, shall the Lord, usually a mistranslation of increasing existence, God is a verb noun, establishing, established, raise up, to him shall ye hearken, Deuteronomy 18:15. Even though he bid thee transgress one of the commandments ordained in the Torah, as did Elijah on Mount Carmel, yet according to the need of the hour, listen to him. Sefer Deuteronomy Shephathim, section 175, folio 107b, Yeb 90b. Well, then it wouldn't have been the divine command if the actual prophet of God was saying not to do it. 349, Men 99b. R. Lakish said, there are times when the suppression or cancellation of the Torah, perhaps rather of a commandment in the Torah, may be the firmer foundation of the Torah. Oh, that's one way to look at contradictions. Men 99b. Thus, the verse cited in selection 350, which is the next one we're going to read, was used at the end of Barakot as a justification for the reintroducing the prohibited pronunciation of the divine name in greetings. The Lord be with you. May the Lord bless you. In order to revive religion. H.L. Well, what was prohibited wasn't, and anybody can say the name, it was the secular use of the name. So as long as you kept the use of divine names, not just one formula, it applies to them all. It applies to them all. 350, Temara 14b. There seems once to have been a rabbinical ruling that ordinances, halakot, of the oral law must not be written down. R. Johanan said, the writing down of the halakot is equal in wrongdoing to the burning of the Torah. Yet R. Johanan and Resh Lakish used on Sabbaths to read Agadic books. They taught at a time of working for the Lord. They broke thy law. A playful mistranslation of Psalm 119, 126, where they said, it is better that the law should be broken than forgotten. See 12, page CIII, Temara 14b. For the term halakot, see selection 196. While collections of Haggadah seem to have been current at an early period, the writing down of halakha was depreciated. So was the writing down of blessings, the same phrase being used in 715b top with regard to the blessings. The objection was based on the fear that a stereotyped blessing or law would lack spontaneity, and the writing down would check development. The leader in prayer has certain subjects assigned to him to be alluded to in a certain order. The phrasing was within certain limits left to him, bear 48b, 49a. Similarly, the codification of the law was held to imperil the continuance of living and the expanding law. Maimonides was careful to state that his code was but a convenience, not a substitute for original authorities or a seal on future activity. The Haggadah was highly esteemed by reason of its ethical value. It did not, however, possess the binding authority of the halakha, but the rabbis saw that through Haggadah the hearts of the people could be reached, and so they realized that the Haggadist was fulfilling a valuable function. A good example of the relation of the Haggadah and halakha is furnished by Sot 40a R. Abahu and R. Chia bar Abba once chanced to come to a certain place where the former gave Haggadic and the latter halakhic addresses. Everyone left Chia and flocked to listen to Abahu, so that Chia felt discouraged. Abahu said to him, I will tell you a parable. We are like two traders, one a jeweler and one a haberdasher. Which of the two will attract the greater number of customers? Surely he who sells cheap articles. Now day by day, Chia was in the habit of accompanying Abahu up to his inn as a sign of respect because of the esteem in which the government regarded him. Abahu was very wealthy and had great influence with the government, with whom he would intercede for his co-religionists in the cases of need. See Chug 14a, Sun 14a, Ket 17a. But on this day, it was Abahu who accompanied Chia to his inn, and yet even this did not restore Chia's composure. And that note was by H.L. See selection 435. The law gives life, above all, life in the world to come. Selection 351 from Pes K 102A finished to 102B initial. R. Samuel B. Nachmana said, the words of the law are compared to wine, for as wine strengthens, so the law strengthens those that toil in it with all their will. As it is said, the praises of God in their mouths and a two-edged sword in their hands. Psalm 149, verse 6. Or Judah said, a two-edged sword means the written and the oral law. Or Nehemiah said, it is a sword which cuts on both sides. That is, a law which gives life in this world and life in the world to come. Pasquet 102a, fin 202b, initial. 352, Abzar 3b. Resh Lakish said, over him who occupies himself with the Torah in this world, which is like night, God extends the cord of his grace in the world to come, which is like day, as it is said, the Lord will command his loving kindness in the daytime, while in the night his song shall be with me. Psalm 42:9. Abzar 3b. 153 from 10 dBL, page 148. Even though Israel be in exile among the nations, if they occupy themselves with Torah, it is as though they were not in exile. 10 dBL, page 148. Selection 354, Sifra 86a, fin to 86b, initial. Ye shall keep my ordinances to walk therein. Leviticus 18:4. That is, you are to make them the main purpose of your life, and not a subsidiary thing. All thy business is with them alone, and other matters must not be mixed up with them. Do not say, now that I have learnt the wisdom of Israel, I will go and learn the wisdom of the nations of the world. For the Torah says to walk in them. You are not permitted to separate from them, as it says, let them be thine only ones, and let no strange things be with thee. Proverbs 5:17. AV, let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Sifra 86a, fin to 86b, initial. 355. Canticles R 1, section 1, 9 on 1, folio 2b. It is written, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures. Proverbs 2:4. Our Pinchas said, if you seek after the words of the law as for hid treasures, God will not withhold from you your reward. If a man loses some money, or even a small coin in his house, how many lamps and wicks does he not kindle till he finds it? If, for that which gives the life of an hour in this world, a man kindles all these lamps and wicks, how much more should you search as for hidden treasure after the words of the law, which gives life in this world and life in the world to come? Canticles R 1, section 1, 9 on 1, folio 2b. 356, 10 dBL, page 198. Happy is he who makes himself as an ox to the yoke, as a donkey to the burden, as the cow to the plow in the hollow. Happy are ye who sow beside all waters. Isaiah 32:20. For the waters mean Torah. Sifra 84a, edited for an selection 437. How is this? He who reads the Torah, then the prophets, and then the writings, and then the halakot, i.e. the Mishnah, then the midrash, who attends the seminary and does a little business, to such a man God says, my son, this world and the next world are mine and thine. The sanctuary is mine and thine. The days of the Messiah are mine and thine. Notes 94, 10 dBL, page 198. 357, Jan R. Nawach, 35.3, Defend the page 333, notes about 6, section 9 per book, page 208. Artaban said to Rabbinu. The reading Rabbinu, i.e. Our Judah, the prince, is usually held to be incorrect. It should be Rab, with one B, i.e. Abba, Arika. Artaban V was the last of the Parthian kings who died in 227 of the Common Era. He favored his Jewish subjects in the parallel TJ Pe'ah 1, section 1, folio 15d, line 54. The reading is also wrong. These Rabbinu HaKadesh, but it is marginally corrected to Rab 419, and that notes H.L.'s note. A precious pearl, and said to him, Send me a precious object of equal value. Our Judah sent him a mezuzah. He said to him, I sent you a priceless gift, and you send me something worth a penny. Our Judah replied, Our respective gifts cannot be compared. Moreover, you sent me something which I must guard, but I sent you something which, when you sleep, will guard you. As it is said, when thou walkest, it will lead thee. When thou liest down, it will watch over thee. And when thou awakest, it will talk with thee. Proverbs 6:22. It will lead thee in this world, and it will watch over thee in the hour of death. It will talk with thee in the world to come. Note 23, Gen R, Noach 35:3, and Finch the 333, notes Abbott 6:9, per book 208. And, well, one's behaviors, one's beliefs affect you whether one's conscious about it or not. But the actual device doing something other than reminding you or being a tool while you're thinking about it, it's not like so not the amulet. I'm not promoting the amulet and charm thing by sharing that narration. But certainly there is a lot of jurisprudence among the Jews about amulets and charms. To fulfill each precept at its hour, and as soon as possible in the delight of the pious. Selection 358, R. Judah and R. Elazar. B. Shemua said, precious or lovely is a command fulfilled at its proper time. Sifra 25a. R. Selection 359, Sephra 58c, Pass 4a. The zealous hasten to fulfill the commandments, as it is said, and Abraham rose up early in the morning to fulfill God's command. Genesis 22:3. Sifra 58c, see Pass 4a. The Hebrew for zealous, zariz, is a very strong word and is even stronger than the English zealous. Well, the sound, right? 218. This phrase has had much influence in later Judaism. And that's H.L.'s note. 360, Mech, Pischa, Bo, section 9, page 33, Mech, volume 1, page 74. The saying is based on the fact that matzot, unleavened bread, and mitzvot, commandments, see 753, have the same consonants. H.L. R. Josiah said, just as you must not allow the matzah, unleavened bread, to get sour, i.e. you must be quick to make the matzah, lest it leaven. So, you must not let the commandment get sour by delay. If a command comes your way, do it at once. Mech Pischa Bo, Section 9, page 33, Mech, Volume 1, page 74. It is worthwhile to accept poverty and to study and love the law. One must be ready even for death sooner than abandon the law. 361, Lev R. Amor 31. R. Johanan was going for a walk from Tiberias towards Zephyrus, and R. Chia B. Abba supported him. They came to a field, and R. Johanan said, "This field was mine, and I sold it to enable me to acquire the law." They came to a vineyard and to an olive garden, and R. Johanan said the same. Archia began to weep. "Why do you weep?" said R. Johanan. Archia said, "Because you have left nothing for your old age." Then R. Johanan said, "Is it a light thing in your eyes what I have done? I have sold what was created in 6 days and acquired what was given in 40 days. As it is said, Moses was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights, Exodus 34:28, Lev R. Amor 31. 362 from Kid 414, Kid 82b, see selection 1223. R. Meir said, "Let a man always have his son taught a decent, respectable, and easy handicraft or occupation, and pray to him to whom riches and property belong. For there is no occupation from which poverty or riches may not come. For neither wealth nor poverty comes from the occupation, but all is according to desert." R. Simeon B. Elazar said, "Have you ever seen an animal or a bird which has an occupation craft? Yet they are nourished without worry, and they have been created only to serve me." The Quran has a verse, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. How much more should I, who have been created to serve my Maker, be nourished without worry? But I have corrupted my deeds, and I have injured my sustenance. R. Nehorai said, "I have put aside every occupation in the world, and teach my son nothing but the law, for the reward interest of it a man enjoys in this world, and the capital remains for him in the world to come. It is not so with all other occupations. If a man is sick and old or suffering, he cannot practice his occupation, and he dies of hunger. But the law keeps a man from all evil in his youth, and gives him hope and an assured outlook in his old age." This is all from the Mishnah. In the Gemara, the words are as follows. R. Simeon B. Elazar said, "In my life I never saw a stag as a dryer of figs, or a lion as a porter, or a fox as a merchant. Yet are they all nourished without worry? If they who are created only to serve me are nourished without worry, how much more ought I, who am created to serve my master, to be nourished without worry? But I have corrupted my ways, and so I have impaired my sustenance." Qid 414, Qid 82b, see selection 1223. Selection 363, Ab RN, version 1, 1123b. Ben Azai said, "If any man humiliates himself for the law, eats dried dates, and wears dirty clothes, and sits and keeps guard at the doors of the wise. Every passerby thinks him a fool, but at the end you will find that all the law is within him. Ab RN, verse 1, 1123b. The reading is probably wrong. Dates, even when dried, are far from being a poor man's food. The collocation is unusual, and the word cherubim, rendered dried, is probably the carob, which was a symbol of poverty. For example, in Leviticus 35:6, where there is a play on the words harob, cherub, and cherub. Sword, as in Isaiah 120, ye shall be made to eat the sword. Or probably for sword we should read cherub, 253 H.L. Selection 364, Sephra Deuteronomy Ha-Azanu, section 306, folio 131b. Moses said to Israel, Know you not with what travail I gained the Torah, what toil, what labor I endured for its sake? 40 days and 40 nights I was with God. I entered among the angels, the living creatures, the seraphim, of whom anyone could blast the whole universe in flame. My soul, my blood, I gave for the Torah. As I learnt it in travail, so do you learn it in travail. And as you learn it in travail, so do you teach it in travail. Sephra Deuteronomy Ha-Azanu, section 306, folio 131b, 365, Tunch B, Wayekra 1b, initial. Bless ye the Lord, all ye his angels, mighty in strength that do his commandments. Psalm 103:20. R. Isaac Napacha said, this refers to those who keep the seventh year. Why is such a man called mighty in strength? If a man is content without complaint to see his carefully tended field make free to all and sundry, and his trees the property of all who pass by, and his fence broken down, and his fruit consumed, and in spite of all this, he suppresses his feelings and does not say a word because it is the seventh year of release. Such a man is angelic in temper and strong, for it said, Abbath 4:1, who is mighty, he who subdues his evil inclination. Tunch B, Wayekra 1b, initial. Selection 366. Bear 63b. The words of the Torah endure only with him who would suffer death on their behalf. Bear 63b. Selection 367, Ton DBL, page 156. God gives Torah only to him who puts himself in pain for it. Ton DBL, page 156. Selection 368, Bearer 61b. Our rabbis have taught, once the wicked government decreed that Israel should no longer occupy themselves with Torah, then came Paphos, B. Judah, c. 139, and found our Akiba holding great assemblies and studying Torah. He said to him, Akiba, are you not afraid of the wicked government? He replied, I will tell you a parable. To what is the matter like? To a fox who was walking along the bank of the stream, and saw some fishes gathering together to move from one place to another. He said to them, "From what are you fleeing?" They answered, "From nets which men are bringing against us." He said to them, "Let it be your pleasure to come up on the dry land, and let us, me and you, dwell together, even as my fathers dwelt with your fathers." They replied, "Are you he of whom they tell that you are the shrewdest of animals? You are not clever, but a fool. For if we are afraid in the place which is our life element, how much more so in a place which is our death element? So also it is with us, if now, while we sit and study Torah, in which it is written, 'For that is thy life, and the length of thy days,' Deuteronomy 30:20, we are in such a plight. How much more so if we neglect it? See note 24, Bear 61b. Let the law always be fresh, like a new enactment which all run to read. Pasquet 102a, selection 369, Tan B. Yitro 38b, Sifra Deuteronomy Wa et Chanan, section 33, folio 74a, H, page 59. On this day Israel came to Mount Sinai. Exodus 19:1. Why on this day? Because when thou learnest Torah, let not its commands seem old to thee, but regard them as though the Torah were given this day. Hence it says, on this day, and not on that day. Touch B, Yitro 38b, Sefer Deuteronomy Wa et Chanan, section 33, folio 74a, H, page 59. The law's enactments must be, in one sense, not an obligation in another sense. They must be performed just because they are ordered, and because you are bidden to fulfill them. 370 from Men 99b. R. Jonathan said that the famous words in Joshua 1:8, "Thou shalt meditate therein, the law, day and night," thus proving wrong those Christians who say meditation is, from the devil or something, right? Were not command or obligation, but blessing. They meant that because Joshua loved the words of the law so much, therefore they should never depart out of his mouth. In the school of R. Ishmael, it was taught that the words of the law are not to be unto you an obligation, but on the other hand, you are not free to dispense yourselves from them. See, Tharphone's saying in Abath 2:21 per book, page 190, quoted elsewhere, 579, Men 99b, 371, Pid 31a, R. Chanina said, "It is finer to do what is commanded than to do the same thing when it is not commanded." Pid 31a. There may be a sense in which we may honor the divine lawgiver more by admitting that his injunctions are hard to fulfill, demanding, costing, as Baron von Hugel would say, our fullest resolution, than by a too ready acceptance, as it were, capable of doing very much more than is asked of us. And if what was asked of us were so much child's play, some such idea as this is contained in the following parable, 372 from Sifra Deuteronomy Wa et Chanan, section 28, folio 71b, H, page 44. A king had 2 servants. He ordered them not to drink wine for 30 days. The one said, "Why only 30 days? I'm ready not to drink it for a year or even for 2 years." But in saying this, he weakened the words of his master. The other said, "Can I possibly do without wine even for a single hour?" By saying this, he honored his master. Sefer Deuteronomy Wa et Chanan, section 28, folio 71b, page 44. Help others also to perform the commandments. 373 AB RN, verse 1, 24, 39b. R. Elisha B. Abuya, see selection 469, said, "If a man causes another to do a commandment, the scripture regards him as if he had done it himself." Ab RN, verse 1, 24, 39b. The law is to be studied and fulfilled for its own sake, but also, even not for its own sake. Selection 374, Pes K 15, 120b, fin to 121a, initial, 340 and 1460 of our selections. Who are the true guardians of the city? Not the senators and the chief of the city guard, but the teachers of the law and the teachers of the Mishnah, where it's left out. God is more lenient towards idolatry, unchastity, and murder than towards contempt of the law. It says in Jeremiah 16:11, "They have deserted me and have not kept my law." God says, "Would that they had deserted me and kept my law, for if they had occupied themselves with the law, the leaven," other reading light, "which is in it, would have brought them back to me." That is why R. Huna said, "Study the law, even not for its own sake, for through being occupied with the law, even not for its own sake, you will come to fulfill it for its own sake." Pes K 1520b, fin to 121a, initial, see 340 and 1460 of our selections. There's that passage in the Quran that talks about how the believers are the true guardians, and there's plenty of teachings to back up the idea of that it's worse to oppose the spiritual law than it is to disobey any of it. This passage is a good example in rabbinic ways of thought rather than of hyperbole. In rabbinic homiletics, the preacher is always ready to emphasize the topic with which he is at the moment dealing, even as it seems to us, to the extent of going beyond his brief. Neither Samuel B. Isaac nor Huna and R. Jeremiah, who quoted him, would have denied that the three sins mentioned here were cardinal, and if these sins had chanced to be their theme, their denunciation would have stigmatized them as to the worst man could commit. Note 84. But here they happen to be speaking of the Torah, and so neglect of the Torah is put in the limelight. Such rapid changes of thought can be paralleled in biblical style. What we call a mixed metaphor is good Hebrew writing. The Israelites can declare to Moses, "You have caused us to stink in the eyes of Pharaoh." The late Professor Kennett used to say that the vivid brain of the Hebrew caused him to utilize a metaphor instantaneously and then drop it. To utilize it twice would have seemed tedious to him. This, I think, explains such a passage as this. One could, of course, point out that, according to the parable, the civic guardian's function is negative, i.e. to suppress breaches of civil law, while that of the teacher is positive, i.e. to inculcate an active moral attitude, which would so influence public and private life, that the need of the guardians would disappear. Is almost Pauline sentiment is not excluded here. For Levin, see note 85, and that note that we just went over is from H.L. The knowledge or study of the law, or rather of Torah, divine revelation, is the true purpose or end of the Israelites' life. But not only must it be combined with practice, it needs moral goodness even for its acquisition, and it promotes moral goodness. Righteousness and knowledge, and pursuit and product are strangely combined and intertwined with one another. Thus we read 375, Abath 6:6 per book, 206, 207. The Torah is greater than the priesthood and than royalty, seeing that royalty demands 30 qualifications. See the Sanhedrin, chapter 2. The priesthood, 24. See Baba Kama, 110b, and Midrash Tanchuma, section Bemidbar. While the Torah is acquired by 48. And these are they: by audible study, by distinct pronunciation, by understanding and discernment of the heart, by awe, reverence, meekness, cheerfulness, by ministering to the sages, by attaching oneself to the colleagues, by discussion with disciples, by sedateness, by knowledge of the scripture and of the Mishnah, by moderation in business, in intercourse with the world, in pleasure, in sleep, in conversation, in laughter, by long suffering, by a good heart, by faith in the wise, by resignation under chastisement, by recognizing one's place, rejoicing in one's portion, putting offense to one's words, claiming no merit for oneself, by being beloved, loving all present, loving mankind, loving just courses, rectitude and reproof, by keeping oneself far from honor, not boasting of one's learning, or delighting in giving decisions, by bearing the yoke with one's fellow, judging him favorably and leading him to truth and peace, by being composed in one's study, by asking and answering, hearing and adding thereto by one's reflection, by learning with the object of teaching and by learning with the object of practicing, by making one's master wiser, fixing attention upon his discourse, and reporting a thing in the name of him who said it. Abath 6:6 per book, 206, 207. 376. Abath 3:2. See 466. Art Chandana B. Dosa said, "He in whom the fear of sin comes before wisdom, his wisdom will endure. But he in whom wisdom comes before the fear of sin, his wisdom will not endure." Abath 3:2. C. 466. 377. ABRN 2, 32, 35a. It is as though a man went into a shop and asked for a pint of wine. The shopkeeper says to him, "Give me your vessel." But the man opens his bag. Then he says to the shopkeeper, "Give me some oil." When the shopkeeper asks for the vessel, he offers the corner of his garment. The shopkeeper says to him, "You have not got a vessel, and yet you want to buy wine and oil?" So God says to the wicked, "You are destitute of good deeds, yet you want to learn Torah. My statutes you keep not. How then would you talk of them?" Psalm 116, ABRN 2, 32, 35a. 378 from Abath 612 prayer book, page 204. R. Me'er said, "Whoever labors in the Torah for its own sake merits many things. And not only so, but the whole world is indebted to him. He is called friend, beloved, a lover of the all-present, a lover of mankind. It clothes him in meekness and reverence. It fits him to become just, pious, upright, faithful. It keeps him far from sin and brings him near to virtue. R. Joshua B. Levy said, "No man is free but he who labors in the Torah." Abbott 612, prayer book, page 204. 379. This is the way that is becoming for the study of the Torah. A morsel of bread with salt thou must eat, and water by measure thou must drink. Thou must sleep upon the ground and live a life of trouble. The while thou toilest in the Torah, if thou doest thus, happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well for thee. Psalm 128, verse 2. Happy shalt thou be in this world, and it shall be well with thee in the world to come. Seek not greatness for thyself, and crave not honor more than is due to thy learning, and desire not the table of kings, for thy table is greater than theirs, and thy crown greater than theirs, and faithful is he, the master of thy work, to pay thee the reward of thy labor. App 645, per book, page 205, 206. See Hereford, page 155, 1380, 39 starts with "This is the way." Before that was Abbott 612, per book 204. $380 from Tunch Nawach, section 3, folio 15b. Wisdom cannot be found in the land of the living. Job 28:13. This cannot be taken literally, for is Torah to be found in the land of the dead? Therefore, living must mean good, living, luxury. The Torah is not to be found with him who seeks the lusts of the world, pleasure, glory, greatness in this world, only with him who kills himself so far as living in this world is concerned. As it says, this is the law if a man dies. Number 1914. Tunch Nawach 3, folio 15a. 381. The right character for a scholar is to be modest and humble, eager and bright, submissive, beloved by all, gentle to the members of his household, sin-fearing, judging everyone according to his deeds. He should say, I have no pleasure in the things of this world, for it does not concern me. Let him sit at the feet of the wise, and let no one perceive in him an evil quality. Let him ask aptly and answer promptly. Der Z 101. Choose Torah rather than riches. 382. Abbott 6:9, prayer book 208. R. Jose B. Pisma said, I was once walking by the way when a man met me and saluted me, and I returned the salutation. He said to me, Rabbi, from what place art thou? I said to him, I come from a great city of sages and scribes. He said to me, if thou art willing to dwell with us in our place, I will give thee 1,000 golden dinars and precious stones and pearls. I said to him, wert thou to give me all the silver and gold and precious stones and pearls in the world, I would not dwell anywhere but in a home of the Torah. And thus it is written in the book of Psalms by the hands of David, king of Israel, the law of thy mouth is better unto me than thousands of gold and silver. Psalm 119:72. And not only so, but in the hour of man's departure, neither silver, nor gold, nor precious stones, nor pearls accompany him, but only Torah and good works, as it is said, when thou walkest, it shall lead thee, and when thou liest down, it shall watch over thee, and when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. Proverbs 6:22. When thou walkest, it shall lead thee in this world. When thou liest down, it shall watch over thee in the grave, and when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee in the world to come. Abbott 6:9, per book 208. 383, Ab RN 231, 34b. Words of Torah are like golden vessels. The more you scour them and rub them, the more they glisten and reflect the face of him who looks at them. So with the words of Torah, whenever you repeat them, they glisten and lighten the face, as it says, the commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes, but if you neglect them, they become like vessels of glass, which are easily broken, as it says, gold and glass cannot be put side by side. Job 28:17 AD, the gold and the crystal cannot equal it, i.e. the wisdom. ABRN 2:31-34b. 384. ABRN verse 2. Is it verse or version? 31-34b. Words of Torah are compared with garments of delicate wool, which are not quickly acquired, but are speedily torn. So words of Torah are hard to acquire, but easy to lose. Words of foolishness, on the other hand, are like sackcloth, easy to buy, but not easy to tear. So words of folly are easy to acquire and hard to lose. RN 2:31-34b. It is no easy thing to acquire or keep one's hold. Torah. Well, as we saw going back to 378, whoever labors in the Torah for its own sake merits many things. Of course, I would qualify the actual scripture to the prophets, but 385, Sephra, Deuteronomy, Ekab, 48, Philo 83b, HD, page 108. As a man has to take heed of his money, that it should not be lost, so he must take heed of what he has learnt, so that it should not be lost. As silver is hard to acquire, so are the words of the Torah hard to acquire. Moreover, if they are hard to acquire, like silver and gold, it is also easy to lose them, as it is easy to lose vessels of glass. Beker, Agada, Der, Tana, Eten, 2:21, 298, edition 2, Sifra, Deuteronomy, Akab, section 48, folio 83b, HD, page 108. Torah is all sufficient for man. Well, as we've previously seen in 378, Armeyer saying, not only soul, but the whole world is indebted to him. He's called friend, beloved, a lover of the all-present, a lover of mankind. It clothes him in meekness and reverence. It fits him to become just, pious, upright, and faithful, and keeps him far from sin, and brings him near to the future. Our Joshua B. Levi said, no man is free, but he who labors in the Torah. 386, Abbott 5:25 and 26, per book 204. Ben Bogbog said, turn it, the Torah, and turn it over again, for everything is in it, and contemplate it, and wax gray and old over it, and stir not from it, for thou canst have no better rule than this. Ben Hehe said, according to the labor is the reward. Abbott 5:25 and 26, per book, page 204. The rabbinic idea of a friend is a companion who studies the law with you. 387, Sifra, Deuteronomy, Netzabim, section 305, folio 129b. A companion can be gained only with the greatest difficulty. Hence they say, let a man gain a companion for himself, one who will read with him, learn with him, eat and drink with him, and share his secrets, for two are better than one. Ecclesiastes 4:9, Sefer Deuteronomy, Netzabim, 305, folio 129b. To study Torah is good. To teach it is a grade yet higher. Even so, to fulfill a command is good. To cause another to fulfill it is a grade yet higher. 388, Sifra Deuteronomy, Sifra Numbers Shalach, section 112, folio 33a, H, page 121. He has despised the word of the Lord, Numbers 15:31. R. Me'er said, "This is the man who studies the Torah but does not teach it to others." R. Nathan said, "This is he who could study the law but does not." Sifra Numbers Shalach, section 112, folio 33a, H, page 121. 389, San 99b, 100a. If a man teaches the son of his fellow student the Torah, the scripture accounts it to him as if he had created him. R. Lazar says, as if he had created the law itself. For if a man induces his fellow to fulfill a mitzvah, see 753 of the later selections, it is reckoned to him as if he had done it himself. Words left out. He who endures hunger for the law in this world shall be satisfied in the world to come. Note 25, Sen 99b, 100a, selection 390, RH 23a. R. Johanan said, "He who learns the Torah and does not teach it is like a myrtle in the desert, but some say he who learns the Torah and teaches it in a place where there is no learned man is like a myrtle in the wilderness, for it is," beloved there, 23a.